This is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And yes, we are commanded to love one another, whether we want to or not, or whether we agree with each other or not. So during this Black History Month, I think it's fitting to ask the question, why didn't Black Americans run away from America when slavery ended? Why didn't we do like a lot of these Black people from other parts of the world, from Africa and the Caribbean and other parts of the world? Why didn't we just leave? Why didn't we flee? Why didn't we go somewhere else looking for a better life? Why did we stay here? Because we have certainly gone through some things. We've had some real challenges staying here. So why didn't we go back? Well, the fact of the matter is some did go. Some went to Liberia. Some went to Mexico. Some went to the Caribbean. A few. But we didn't leave in any large numbers. We stayed here. Not only stayed here in the United States, but stayed in the South. Most of our ancestors stayed in the South where they had been enslaved. So why did they stay? Well, there were actually a couple of reasons why they stayed. Number one, they had put in 246 years of free labor building this empire, and they could see the results of their work. It wasn't like they were just here doing nothing. They were building, they were growing, they were inventing. They were getting educated. They were building institutions. They were building communities. They were building churches. They were building their lives here. So they had the courage to say, we're not running. We're not leaving. We built this. This was built with our blood, sweat, and tears. And we're not walking away from what we built. So they had the presence of mind to stand on their square even in those days. So the first reason that they stayed here was their sense of ownership in this land. They had ownership in this land. They were here when this country was established, and they are the ones who put the infrastructure in place. And then there was a sense of pride. They had been brought to this country against their will, forced into captivity, free labor, and had done their due diligence here, even under duress. So they had a sense of pride. It's like, you're not going to work me for 250 years, not pay me anything. I do all of this work, set this country in place, and then I'm going to run? Because remember, Abraham Lincoln had said that they couldn't live in this country. They needed to send them to the Dominican Republic. And Frederick Douglass and another group of Black men told them, we are not going anywhere. This is our land. We worked for this. And so they had the sense of pride, they had a sense of ownership, and they had a sense of courage. It had been tough for them from the beginning, all through slavery. It had been tough. So they took on the attitude that we're willing to ride it out. We're not going anywhere. So they had that kind of constitution, that kind of character, and that kind of courage going for them. We are not leaving. This is our land. We worked for this. And again, they could see the results of their labor. And the half has not even been told yet. We still don't know the full breadth of the contributions that the enslaved people made to this country, because things are still being uncovered. But what we know is that they had a sense of ownership, they had a sense of pride, and they had the courage to stand and say, we are not leaving. We built this. Another reason they didn't run was because America held out hope for them. The 13th Amendment freed them. The 14th Amendment gave them citizenship, due process, and equal protection under the law. And the 15th Amendment gave Black men the right to vote. And beginning in 1865, Reconstruction began. And they were in political offices. They were holding political offices. They were building colleges. They were inventing, still always inventing, and the future looked bright for them. And they made a lot of progress in those 12 years of Reconstruction before the South, which was not able to get its economy back on its feet because they didn't know how to do the work, re-enslaved them. But even in that, they continued to make progress. So America always held out hope for the enslaved people and the newly freed ones. There was always a possibility that we are going to get ahead in America, and many people locked into that dream and held on to that. We can get ahead in this country. We will get ahead in this country. And they did. On my other channel, I'm focusing on the successful black people during Reconstruction and Jim Crow because there was a lot of progress being made even during those times. And black people saw that but for all of the racism in America, they could find their way to become very successful. There were so many obstacles in their way, but many of them saw beyond the obstacles and they could see what they could become in spite of the obstacles. So that's another reason why they stayed. And then there was also the question, where are we going to go? Where are we going to go? They didn't know anything about, they didn't, first of all, they didn't have any money to go anywhere. And the second thing was they didn't have anywhere to go. There was nowhere to run to. Nobody had gone anywhere and prepared a place for them to go running off to like we did with these black immigrants coming over here. And this is the only place that they can come to run their mouth because nobody wants them in any other part of the world. Nobody wants them in their country. So they come over here and they're very disrespectful, which shows that these people are very ungrateful and they don't have any class. But back to black Americans. Black Americans always had the courage to stay here and fight for what they felt was theirs. That is why I do not understand these people running from their homeland, from where they have agency, where their people are, to come somewhere else to argue about who has culture and who doesn't. Black Americans didn't run away from America because the spiral has always turned upward. There has always been upward progress where we could see to the next stage or dream to the next stage. And it never occurred to them that they would go and run off to a place that somebody else built, a place that they didn't know anybody, and a place that they had no means of surviving when they had built this country and made it rich. They had made this country rich, and make no mistake about it, the wealth of this country was built on the backs of our ancestors. So there was no reason for them to leave. There was no reason for them to leave because there was no soft landing pad. Wherever they went, it was going to be hard. So they decided to stay here and build on what they had done here. And that is what they did. And they are not given nearly the credit that they should be given for surviving. There was a point in the United States of America where black American descendants of slavery owned 19 million acres of land. And you have to let that wrap your head around that. Coming out of slavery, they bought land and they built on that land. So there was always progress being made in America by our people. There was always the undercurrent of violence, of hatred, of discrimination, of trying to hold them back, but still they continued to rise. They saw no reason to run, and they had the courage to stay. Now, those are just some of the reasons I came up with off the top of my head why they didn't leave. There are many other reasons why they didn't leave, but the main thing is they didn't leave. They didn't run. They have a legacy and a history of courage. And for all these people coming over here talking about their culture and their language and their tribes and all of that, it doesn't mean anything because they don't have any courage. It takes courage to live in this world. It takes courage to stand up and speak truth to power. And everybody just doesn't have the nature in them to run. Some people believe in themselves and they believe in the power of the creator of the universe to sustain them, even in the most difficult of situations. And that is what they lean on, themselves and the higher power who always sustain them. So our people didn't run. They didn't run. They stayed here and made something out of it. And they built a culture, a history, and left a legacy that is second to none in the world. And we have nothing to do but be proud of them. All right, y'all. Let me know what you think about the video. Thank you for listening. Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.